Good?
Yep.
Okay,
So we are starting.
go ahead, you're in charge.
Okay, so the first thing that we wanted to do at the this meeting was to talk about the relevant course offerings. That's what we did at the last strategic planning session. But really, it's to get an update with what's going on as far as what plans the principals have for the end of the year, and also what plans they have for just return of materials for the on-site. So Todd, do you want to talk about graduation and return of materials?
Trying to talk about graduation. So the plan right now, of course, things could change. You never know. But the plan right now is to have a drive-in style graduation. Talk to my senior leadership about this, the senior student council members, and talk to then the entire student class. I had a couple meetings with each of them just to try to come up with ideas and to still fall in with the guidelines that the state has put out for us. Two things that they were hoping. Well, one thing is like, yeah, let's have it in the football field, and also let's just have it just like we've always had it. Well, neither of those we can do. It specifically says in those guidelines in boldface those are not permissible. But a drive-in style is permissible. So the plan will be for the students and parents to arrive in their cars in front of the building. We'll have that entire block blocked off so that they can drive in, and then we'll have a stage set up in the middle of the lawn, so we can have our speakers, and the kids will be able to then come out and go across the stage and receive their diploma. At the end of it, we'll have a parade through town in our typical parade route, middle of town. We'll have everyone stop. We'll have the seniors get out. I'll introduce the class of 2020. They can throw their hats at that point in time, and then we go on. So that's the quick version of that. Questions on that?
What time of the day?
So the plan is still to run it at 7 o'clock. Seniors said, let's have it, on the day we're supposed to have it. They kind of wanted that. That was one thing, and they did not want a virtual graduation. So the plan is still 7 o'clock. If it's going to rain and if we have to change it, then we'll move it to Saturday, probably Saturday afternoon first. If that's going to rain, then we jump into Saturday. Hopefully we'll be able to get it in that just this weekend.
What about, is it going to be televised for people that can't be there? How will they watch it?
Correct. So the goal will be to put it on Facebook Live. I will also have a photographer there that will take kids receiving their diplomas, on stage so that parents can purchase or get the pictures of their kids up there. Sounds good.
Mike?
Other questions?
Mike and Ain has one.
We're having speakers.
Yes, we are having speakers, so the Val and Sal will speak, as well as the student council president, and our superintendent will give a speech as well.
It'll be short.
I've directed her on that one. They said to keep it short for the outdoor one. I listened to MSBA today. I mean, we're right on the cusp of what the guidance is saying. We're actually going to have our students, I'll have the chairs set out in front of all the vehicles so that they can have, get their programs. And, right now it looks like I'm going to have them sit on the chairs so they can kind of be a part of that ceremony, so they feel like they're next to each other, even though they're not. They're going to be probably 10 feet away from each other at least, by the vehicles.
And Todd, are
Yeah,
you?
measuring it all out. One thing, a couple things. What they're saying, people have to drive to this drive-in ceremony. They can't walk. They have to remain in their cars. Hopefully, we're looking for maybe an FM transmitter so that they can hear it on their car radio, as well as the speakers that was asked if, because I'm allowing parents that are split to have two vehicles, but one asked if they could bring a hay wagon instead of two vehicles. Well, that is not in the spirit of what the guidance is, nor is, convertibles or jumping in the back of a pickup with lawn chairs. They need to be in a closed vehicle is what I said. I mean, I understand, I appreciate they want to be a part of it, but it's just different. Most are doing virtual. I mean, I think we're fortunate that we can figure out something to do. That seems like a graduation. Probably won't be able to have all board members there, just like my staff. My staff wanted to jump on the roof to watch it, and I said, no, you can't do that, but we'll have some parking in the staff parking lot so they can see that from the side piece of it, so they can watch it that way. Some of the staff members will help organize things as well.
I think Michael had a question.
Yeah, Mike?
Mike, do you still have a question?
Well, I was, so Corinne and Tom, you had, said you were gonna update the board on your phone-in with MSBA the other day. I happened to listen in on that, and then Todd was referring to the follow-up today. I also listened in on that whole thing. They were two completely different meetings.
Was today's a little, calmer?
Let's just say MSBA had figured out how to shut everybody down and to filter the questions. Anyway, so I would appreciate, I think that I don't know how many of the board members were able to catch any part of that. I would appreciate Tom and Corinne you updating us, and then to Todd's question about today's was actually, I think, quite informative from the MSBA's point of view. They said, as a board member, the three things we should be concerned about are legal aspects, following the guidelines, social aspects, and equity aspects. And talked a lot about how to enforce some of the things that we think are going to happen. One of the board members from Duluth talked about what they're doing and the unforeseen stuff that is happening that they didn't anticipate. And of course, Duluth is not Houston, but it is creating in the midst of an otherwise wonderful idea a bit of a nightmare concern for the board or the potential. So anyway, I guess I'd like to hear the rest of leadership, Corinne and Tom, your update.
Well, the MSBA meeting we attended last week, was raucous by the end with the comments in the chat, which is why MSBA probably decided to do another one today. I couldn't attend today's because I was being interviewed by Post Bulletin, and so Todd attended that because it was about graduation and what you could do and what we couldn't do, and I wanted to make sure that what Todd was planning with the students was still not crossing the line. I acknowledge that we're bumping up against the line, but we're not crossing it. But also, for this to work, everybody has to follow the rules. Everybody has to, Todd's putting together a frequently asked question sheet, but the parents have to follow it. The rules apply to everyone. No one is exempt. It doesn't matter about any reason that they think that the rules don't apply. They do. They apply equally to everyone, and we have to enforce those. The biggest update that I have from today is that the new guidance that came out today is that we are allowed to have face-to-face special education summer school. So we can have students in the building this summer, and somebody has their mic on, so if you could put it on mute because I'm getting reverb. We can have face-to-face summer school, so Todd and Rick and I will be meeting on that tomorrow to make sure that we're going through the logistics. That's big news, and it's also very promising for the fall. So we're following the guidance, and, I'm seeing movement of going back to, it'll never be the same as it was, but we're gonna be closer to normal than what we thought.
As far as last week's meeting, I don't think we had much of a lot of that.
You didn't hear what Tom just said? He
Hey,
said,
Michael,
according to last week's MSBA meeting, nothing came out of that. There were no answers. There were lots of questions and a lot of people thinking that the answers were not, they felt that the answers were non-answers, which is why MSBA probably did another one today.
I mean, that's kind of what I got out of it, Michaeline, because when I was, go ahead, Mike, do you have a question? Mike?
Yeah, well, I was there, so I
Yeah.
concur, but I didn't feel I could speak because it was,
No,
Prince Board update said you guys would be updating us,
no,
so
no,
I was
yeah,
inviting that. I guess just a final question I have for Todd, then, have you worked with law enforcement, in terms of, how to, because I think we are pushing up against the line, I don't disagree with it, but I think we need to, ensure that we have talked to law enforcement and as a means of, are they on board and how do they feel they can participate?
Yeah, and that was, you were at today's MSBA one, they talked about that. I've already talked to our local law enforcement and, told them what my thought, the concept, I said it. He said he was 100% good with it. And I talked to another county one and yeah, absolutely, whatever I need and whatever kind of enforcement they want to have. I mean, it's going to be tricky. I mean, there's going to be some things that are going to be a little tricky about it because, we're still going to be butting up to public areas that we can't police, but we can police at least in front of our building and do what we can there. And I think it'll be fine. And I think, as long as I get that out to the public and as long as I really push the parade is a good time for them to celebrate, they can watch it on Facebook Live, which I think they'd be able to see better then. I think we should be good, we'll just keep working, You never know about something sporadically happening that could happen in an indoor graduation ceremony too, but yeah, just keep working on it. But yeah, law enforcement's good. They'll do whatever I need them to do, I can ask them to do whatever.
any other questions for Todd on graduations? Okay, Todd, you want to talk about that return of materials since Quinn's busy?
Well, that's just something that we're working on right now, is trying to figure out how to capture our books and textbooks that are out there with some of the kids, and then the computers, and that's something that Joe's going to help us lead on that too. Is when do we do that? How do we do that? Are we going to go out in buses and pick them up, or are we going to require the kids to bring all the stuff in? So it's something that we need to do, but we're going to have a lot of things to get to the kids as well. And so my hope is actually some of them can come in and pick up some of those packets because they'll have certificates from awards day and other things that our high school kids will need. Most of their locker stuff is already back to them, but there will be awards day stuff, certificates that they'll need. So yeah, still working on that and still working on the guidance, but it's probably going to be that last week, that first week in June, which is last week of school.
Okay. Does Angela got anything to say about graduation?
Angela, do you want to give a little update, please?
Certainly. So our graduation is going to be completely virtual. We're partnering, thank goodness that K-12 is offering the support that they are, because I don't know how I would pull it off without their help. They're basically having us record, so anyone who would be speaking or anything you would normally be doing in the ceremony, they're having us record it through cell phones, Zoom, whatever platform we need. And then we're uploading that to them along with any PowerPoints in the chat and, you know, acknowledge and celebrate their students as their names are being read. And then we're gonna post at the end that we're also hosting a virtual reception. I'm not entirely sure how we're gonna do that yet. We're gonna have to try to experiment on a couple platforms. We're thinking Zoom right now, although we're also thinking of doing some Flipgrid recordings of having teachers do some acknowledgement celebration through Flipgrid. But we'll pull something like that together for a reception, which then allows the teachers to actually live interact with the students, you know, wish them well, talk to them a little bit about graduation. So hopefully it will feel as much like a graduation as we can possibly do virtually.
Is all those links gonna be available for all the board members?
Angela, you can't probably hear Tom. He's wondering if the link would be available so the board members can watch at the same time.
Yes, in fact, I meant to mention that. So once I get all of that information, I can certainly share it out with everyone. You can attend live. It will be recorded. You can watch it after the fact. We're also going to push it out to Facebook Live. So students can actually send it to other people if they want to watch it that way versus the direct link.
Anything else you want to say about the end of the school year? Any other updates?
Not really. I mean, we've ended up canceling anything that we normally would have been doing, so.
Anybody have any questions for Angela? Thanks, Angela.
Oh, I do want to, as long as we're public, I do want to thank Angela and her staff for helping out the rest of the people around the state. She's had some staff members who have been tapped by the Department of Ed to help out other teachers around the state figure out how to do distance learning. They've gotten some very nice thank yous from people at MDE. So I just want to publicly thank Angela, her staff, for not only helping the staff here on site and being willing to help the staff here on site with distance learning, but also being willing to help everybody around the state as well. So thank you.
Well, thank you, and you're welcome. And to that end, I think we easily had 12 people almost immediately sign up to volunteer to help. I didn't look at the recording or the list after the fact, but I mean, as soon as it went out, like literally within minutes, we had teachers responding saying, yep, I'll help in any way we can. So I agree. I think they did a phenomenal job.
Okay, so Mr. Barnes.
Mr. Burtz?
That's why.
Well, I would have to, talking about returning materials, I'd have to agree with Todd. Todd, myself, I've been talking with my staff. We're looking at the best way to deal with things like report cards and saying goodbye to students, and then the procedures for returning the materials, whether it be the bus drivers picking them back up again. We've got textbooks. We'll be working with Joe on the Chromebooks. We've been looking over the guidelines, some suggestions by MREA, and we'll continue to work on the planning phase of how we can get the materials back, close out the school year.
And I included the MREA guidelines for our strategic planning session because that's kind of what we're looking at. There's not any details there, so we can flesh the details out that will work best for the Houston local return of materials. But since MREA's guidance helps so much with writing our distance plan at the beginning of this, it just makes sense that we look to MREA again for the guidance for the return of material. Right now, they're still being led by Fred Nolan, and he's got experience with this, and he's really been somebody that we look to for guidance. When there was an H1N1 outbreak at Foley, and so he's had to do distance learning before when he was superintendent there.
Cool. Any questions for Rick? Okay, thanks, guys. So we're going into the fall 2020 planning, correct?
Right. The first thing, we're planning timelines. Starting school September 8th. Right now, we are tentatively planning for everybody to come back on site. And to be face-to-face, that means the back-to-school in-service the week before. So that would be August 31st. And so we need to be following the guidance, but what I'd like is, in some of the guidance, it's coming out really late. How late do you feel comfortable pushing things as far as when should we pull the plug? There are lots of conversations happening right now about back to school, and there are some schools that are making the decision now to start virtually. I am not comfortable with that. Since they're allowing special ed face-to-face, they haven't made any decisions yet about summer rec. They haven't made any decisions about summer sports. They haven't made any decisions yet about even the use of weight rooms. But they have allowed us to do face-to-face summer school for our special ed. So I am hopeful that we can come back, but this group needs to decide, by what date do we decide if everybody comes back? Michaeline?
So the face-to-face summer school, what are the number of people restrictions and so forth in the rooms? I mean, what are those guidelines? So I don't know what that means. We can do summer school. Is it like no criteria or parameters? Or
there are a lot of, and that's why I just found out about this at 4:30 today. We have to adhere to the 10 people per room guidance, and that includes adults and students. So we need to make sure that we are adhering to that. They also said that summer daycare, once again, that can go back to community education, and so we can charge for that again starting June, the first day that there is no school, so that would be June 5th. We can go back to hurricane watch, but we have to follow the guidelines as far as 10 people per room. So we'll have to figure out and let people know that we can do that and figure out staffing for it. They did say that the stipulation is if you've got a maximum number of students, that you have to allow tier 1 first opportunity, and then tier 2 if you've got more room, but it's no longer free. So we have to follow, at the end of the day, we'll have to follow sanitation guidelines. We have to do as long as it's the same 10 people in the room together all the time, then they don't have to do the social distancing within that room. Mimi?
Yeah, I was just wondering, what's our max enrollment for Hurricane Watch then? And is that like starting Monday, or is it in the summer, or if I'm going to put my kid's head right now,
sorry, no.
Put it on Monday and pay for it? I mean, I'm just curious.
No, it cannot start until summer. So we can't, because through the school year, we have to just keep only tier 1, tier 2. But in the summer, so as soon as school is out, then we can do hurricane watch, but then we're going to have to do communication to find out how many families want to utilize hurricane watch this summer, and then we have to look at the staffing we have available. And I don't know if once we allow for I don't know if the tier 1 and tier 2 will want to keep doing it if they have to pay, but they're first come, first serve. And then they did talk about tier 3. I need to dig into what's considered tier 3 before we open it up to all. And so then we look at how much we can do, what staffing we have available, and I don't know if we have more students that want to do it than what we have staffing. I don't know if we do a lottery system, but we're going to have to come up with the best plan possible so we can provide the service that's really necessary. Todd? You're muted.
For some reason it wasn't unmuting.
Okay.
The Technical Solutions block. No, I'm just kidding. Seeing if Joe's away. Here's something for the board really is decision in a lot of ways, because a lot of schools are having to tackle this. I've been part of these lead networks with the state high school league every week, and what happens with the summer facilities, what happens with, baseball, is there summer rec, and can they have the summer rec? And, we usually let the city use their fields, but if there's more than 10, what about the weight room? Can we have those? Those pieces, I think we're going to have to know. Some schools have shut theirs, high schools have shut theirs down the entire summer already. Some have shut theirs down for the month of June already, but it's something that probably need to be a board action on something like that.
We're supposed to be getting guidance on that piece next Thursday, so I will have had that guidance hot off the presses before coming into next Thursday's board meeting. And what I can do is have new business as far as summer use of building, and then we can have the action at that board meeting, because otherwise we'd have to wait until June 4th for our next board meeting. It's June 4th, isn't it? Yes. And I don't know if that's, because that's the day before summer starts, so that might be a little bit late. And I know that things are coming fast and furious, but we're waiting for the directives and the guidance as soon as they come. Mimi?
Yeah, I think that back to your question about the fall and what it looks like, I think that we just need to communicate that we would like to have the kids at the school, but it also needs to be safe. So everyone's just gonna have to be flexible with us, because they might start back at school and 2 weeks later, it might be horrible. And everybody just needs to be flexible. And I think as long as we just communicate that, at Luther they kind of changed their fall schedule and sent out an email, and that was what they said, is that they really, they value in-person education, but it needs to be safe, and so they've tried to adjust their schedule accordingly, but everyone needs to be flexible.
Okay, Josh?
I feel the same way, and I guess it's under our cap how well we turn things around this year. So that gives me full confidence that we don't need to, that we can have planned to be back on site, and that we've already had this experience finishing this year, and the staff did such a great job kicking things off. That's all.
Okay, thank you.
As far as the tier 1 and tier 2 kids, we need to probably find out as soon as possible. Send out
Right.
notices, say,
We're going
make a
to,
list of people, so we know quantity of teachers we need, and then,
you're gonna have to talk louder. Okay.
sorry,
What,
Ron,
you had a question? Yeah, Todd said he can't hear you. Ron, you're on mute. Oh, okay.
well, Ron,
Okay, what do you need, Ron?
I already forgot. No, just to clarify, there's no summer feeding though, right? No meals,
no,
No, we are,
if we have summer school.
what we have to do is make sure that we're allowing those summer school kids, or telling the summer school kids where there are meal opportunities, if there are meal opportunities in town. Meet Up and Eat Up has asked if they can store some of their food overages in our refrigerator, and so I'm working with Robin to make sure that that can happen, so that their food can be stored and kept at the right temperature, because they don't have enough refrigerator space. So we're working and cooperating with Meet Up and Eat Up as much as we can, and we're trying to find every opportunity for these kids to get food.
Okay.
Thank you.
let me repeat what I said.
Please.
Yeah, when I was talking to Corinne here, what we need to start looking at, since we found out on this tier 1 and tier 2 for summer school, we need to send out letters sooner than later to try to find out the quantity of kids, so we can make sure we have enough teachers or staff available for those kids, and then go to tier 3, and then anything other than that.
Mhm.
But I think we should have a cutoff date at the same time. We shouldn't go till the end of June. It should be like 2 weeks from today. That's the day we need to know if you're gonna be part of it. After that, it's gonna be, you know, first come, first serve, because otherwise, we're not gonna have a good number. That's just my thoughts.
And Rick, you've been doing Hurricane Watch since we wrote the plan for it, I don't know how many years ago.
2008.
So what are your thoughts on that, Rick, if we do it that way?
You know, this is the first I've heard we're going to open up, so I really don't know. Start charging people, it could change. People, as Mimi said, she can sign her kid up tomorrow. I don't know. There's a lot of planning we have to do over the next 2 weeks.
Yeah.
And Rick, what were your, just so we're, have an idea of what we're working with, I know that we've had about 11 kids now, and
That's not my number, we've had 11.
yeah, the highest number we've had is 11, so we have to split them into different groups so that there's fewer than 10 in the
We've
room.
done that.
Yep, but,
We have to find staff who's willing to work over the summer. We'll have to find locations. We've got to do a lot of planning, and then it could change when people have to start paying.
and Rick, how many did you have in Hurricane Watch last summer, just so we have,
It could vary between 20, 25, and then worked out really well because then they could go to summer rec. And so they took them to summer rec. They took them all over. They did things. They went to the pool. So a lot of this is going to change. We're going to have to spend a lot of time planning for this now.
Well, we don't really have
and-
a lot of plan. We don't have a lot of time, Rick, that's unfortunate.
well, no, but,
I understand. I just found out too. I
Yeah.
just found out about 15 minutes ago about this. So,
Yeah,
we have people calling every day finding out, and so I have to go back on what I've been telling them because I just found out about this. So
because
I'll
it
be
just,
working with the staff. I'll be trying to get as much done as we can. I'm going to school every day, so we'll be working on it.
and it just changed today, Rick, that's why,
I understand that.
Yeah.
I understand.
yeah.
It'll change tomorrow,
yeah.
so we'll
Well,
see on it.
I think, Rick, if you just start off, we're kind of, everything's kind of leaning towards the 10 people maximum. That's kind of where everything's leaning.
Per room,
Per room.
right,
So if
We've
you,
got a lot of empty rooms in the summer. And
Right, I mean, if you
custodians
look
have
at
been
that,
cleaning them, so
I think
it's
the
going to be
biggest,
staffing too.
yeah, I think the biggest thing you're gonna have is staffing.
And work. And then the question, there's so many questions that I have right now as far as, do we need 2 people on at one time? What if somebody becomes ill? We've got to take temperatures. We've got to do all of this stuff. So, yes, we will be working on it.
Should get with Deb on that.
I got to find staff.
but,
That's
no,
what
Deb
else-
Jurgensen is gonna be pulled into these decisions
Yeah.
and discussions,
Right.
absolutely.
Okay,
And Deb Jurgensen has been attending the Minnesota Department of Health, phone calls every week.
well, cause
So-
I know a lot of corporations are doing the temperature as they come in the building, verifying them, and if they don't meet the minimum requirements, they get sent home. So, anyway. Okay, is there more on that?
Nope.
Any other questions on that part of it?
Ron?
Ron?
You gotta keep your voice up, we can't hear you when you mumble.
The last time I got yelled for screaming.
Okay,
Okay,
That's more like it.
okay. Any other questions?
and with the next things on the agenda, as far as social distancing and sanitation, as the guidance comes out, I just wanted everybody aware that we are going to follow the guidance rules as far as the rules that they have as far as social distancing. We'll follow the rules as far as sanitation. Actually, in February, we were following a lot of those rules before they were even written. We were disinfecting things every day because of the flu outbreak we had in February. And so a lot of what we were doing in February, actually follows in a lot of the things that they are talking about us doing when we actually have people back in the building. So we'll be working, we'll have to do the sanitation every day, when we have summer school with this special ed summer school, so we'll, start getting the new protocols down this summer so that we can put them into place in the fall. Those are probably questions you're getting, and I wanna make sure you're getting the information so that, if you're asked a question, you know an answer.
Okay, questions? So, Mike Lane, you got a question?
Well, I just wanted to get back to Corinne had asked earlier about board weighing in on plans for returning in the fall, and I agree with Mimi that, of course, and with Josh, that I'm sure with everyone, that we want kids to be in school if possible and do it safely. But for planning purposes, I think we should take a conservative approach and plan as if it's going to be a blended or sort of distance hybrid type model, so that we have the pieces in place should we have to do that on a moment's notice. It doesn't mean we have to, I mean, I just don't know, it's like Rick is saying, all these questions and now you've got 2 weeks to figure them out. I mean, it would be better to ask those questions now and be able to back off from them maybe.
Well, and that's something that we'll be working on all summer, is making sure that we've got, Todd, what was the phrase that you had, general specifics? For going into it, we had, Todd at one point, I think, had 5 different plans going for graduation, depending on what the guidance said that we could do. And so it's going to have to be that same way this summer, where we'll have, if we can open up, that plan, if we can do a hybrid, that plan, if we have to do distance, that plan. So we will have to have all of those plans ready to go, depending on what the guidance says.
Well, then what did you want the board's opinion on?
With the timeline, I know that sometimes it's, at what point would you not be comfortable making that decision? And what I'm hearing is you're comfortable with the decision that we need to be flexible and be able to be very nimble with our decision making. There are some boards that are saying that they're going to make a decision by the end of June, and there are some boards that are saying that they're going to make a decision in July, whether or not the guidance is coming from the state. I was asking if you had that same, and maybe I wasn't clear, but I was asking as a board if you had that same desire to make a decision prior to the guidance coming out.
I think what I got from most of the
You gotta
members.
talk loud, Tom.
I said what I got from most of the members is the key thing is, and Mimi, Josh, and Mike Lane all said it, is flexibility. We want to be prepared. We want to be flexible. And like Josh said, we were able to do it in a short time already, so we have that capability. I just think, I mean, we don't want to rush into it. You know, we want to.
I just want to know that there's planning in it.
Yeah.
As a board member, it would be nice to be updated on a regular basis about what sorts of things are in discussion.
Okay.
It does, you know, I guess that's all. And you have been updating us every time there's been an update from MDE or from Governor Walz. But I also want to know what's happening within the district, within our leadership team to that end. I mean, just that those conversations are happening, and I guess it's an assumption that they are, but it would just be nice to know it for sure.
Well, I thought I was doing that with the
you
updates on Fridays.
Yeah.
I didn't know, for example, there were 5 graduation plans in motion.
Oh.
I knew that Todd had met with the seniors, and I didn't know what that meant, to what degree that meant much of anything, other than we're being flexible and nimble because we may have to change everything tomorrow.
Yeah. Okay, so communication, key over the next few weeks.
Okay.
Okay, any other questions on the planning and timelines? Everybody hear me? Okay, technology utilization.
Okay, and this is, we've got on-site teacher devices. Joe, maybe you could speak to that one, please?
Sure. So, are you talking about the replacement of them? Okay.
Yes.
So, we're looking over the budget, and, you know, some of these machines are 6, 7, 8 years old. their paths of life. We can't pull updates on them anymore, so we started looking at it's time for replacement. We're planning on looking at replacing the high school staff. We talked to some staff, we've done some surveys, we've also rolled out some test machines to actually some of the heavy Mac users, like Marty Momsen. And what we're finding is, quite honestly, 99% of what we're doing is done in a web browser. So it's really device agnostic. And so we're looking at purchasing for this year, this summer, and installing all PCs for high school staff. At this point, we're looking at getting desktops because of the price, plus all staff have a staff Chromebook. So there's no real reason. I think there was one teacher that Todd requested get or one staff member that Todd requested get a laptop. But other than that, I think everybody is getting the desktops so that they have decent machines that we're able to support, they're able to pull updates, and then we'll continue to work with them, whether we're in a blended environment or however this may go.
So I'm sure the question Mimi's probably thinking is, how much is that going to cost us, right?
Sure. So we're looking at replacing 26 machines, and it fits all into the 5-year budget that we gave you guys a few years ago. But we're looking at replacing 25 machines. So it's basically at 25,000 is what we have budgeted for it.
Gwen, is there any concerns there with now the way the state is going to be allocating funds?
No. When Joe does the budget, it kind of works out every year to be about the same, because one year we buy equipment, the next year we buy some different equipment, so it fits into our budget well.
Okay, and Josh?
Josh?
Did I hear you right, Joe? You said all but one are getting a desktop and not a laptop?
Yeah, that's correct, because every staff member also has a Chromebook, so they've got their mobile device, and they can do a lot of what they need to it if we're in an off-site learning environment, and they can still do everything they need.
Has anyone raised complaints this year as far as distance learning, that their main device, or do they bring their desktops home?
No, everybody had a Chromebook, so they used that when they were off-site, and then they used their desktops. The desktops actually work better with projectors and the smart boards and things like that, so that's kind of why we recommend the desktops. And that's why we're going that model. But since we bought everybody a Chromebook last year, every staff member, that's what they're using when they're teaching remotely.
And it serves the purpose, there's no complaining. So even if we're having a blended year, there's, okay.
Yeah, we haven't heard anything. I've been monitoring tickets during this whole thing, and you're not the only school. I mean, there's 30 other districts, but yeah, actually, you guys have some of the nicer Chromebooks. The only districts we're hearing complaints are the ones that have old Chromebooks. So far, it's been working well.
And the only teachers that are coming on site are the ones that, at home, they've got a bandwidth issue because they've got other children at home that are also needing to be online. And so, but they all practice social distancing, and they've got the wipes where they wipe down all the surfaces that they've touched before they leave. So, that no one has complained about any of their devices. Gene?
Yeah, Joe mentioned smart boards. They use the desktops for that. How many of our rooms do have smart boards?
I want to say it's not much for your district. It's like 4 or 5 maybe between the two buildings.
So are we looking at getting more then, so that they with those desktops?
At this point, it's about $5,000 a smart board. Most schools utilize them, but for some reason, they really haven't been a hit that much in Caledonia, and so they're not really being utilized. Every single teacher heavily uses their projector and things like that, but they're really not using the interactive boards at this point. Whether that changes or not, I don't know, but even if it does, I don't know if we'll go all smart. It's no longer one size fits all. There's other boards out there. We're seeing some classrooms go smart, some go clever, some go Promethean. Some look at it and say, hey, I don't need a projector, I just need a big, commercial television, 65-inch for $1,000. It's gonna last the next 7-8 years. So when it happens, we bring in the administration and we have a discussion with the actual teacher to see their needs and then make a recommendation on that. So there are a little bit of funds in the budget for that as well, but there hasn't been a ton of requests for smart boards.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions on devices for teachers? Okay, Joe, gotta go on the student one.
Okay, and now on-site student devices with this, I know the guidance from the commissioner is that she would like us to let kids keep their devices for the summer. However, we really need to do an inventory on them to see, there are kids that are, some of the students are bringing in their Chromebooks because they're not charging anymore, or they're having some tech issues, and the dependable people are here and fixing those right away, but we need to do an entire inventory, and we also have some that are reaching end of life. So I'd like Joe to talk about kind of a plan there.
Sure. So we'll work with Todd and Rick and Corinne on what they want to do. So a lot of what we're doing for collection, just so you guys know, we can go into this in another meeting in more detail, but a lot of schools are doing curbside pickup, where the kids are bringing them in. You have a 2-gallon baggie. It gets dropped in the baggie with the charger, and then there's also like a tiny sheet of paper that they put their name. They say if they returned it with a charger, and then they sign it. And what that's helping with is all of a sudden, when we as techs go through all that stuff, we can say, well, Jimmy Smith, he didn't return his charger, and he even signed saying he didn't return his charger. So when we tell his parents, he owes $50 or whatever, and then they say he returned it, we can say, no, here's that piece of paper. Some schools are taking the approach of, hey, this is blended learning, they shouldn't be charged for it, they were forced to take them home. Other schools are taking the approach of, hey, if they took home a textbook and wrecked it, they'd have to pay for that. So we don't care what the approach the district takes, but the baggies work really well to collect them, because then we know who turned in what. It's anybody can do it, doesn't need to be a tech, just somebody signing off on it. So that's kind of what we recommend for that. In addition, we have multiple machines. It looks like, if my counts are correct, we have about 140 Chromebooks that we plan on replacing this year that are end of life. And those are, K through 12. Those are anything, when it's end of life, basically that means that it's no longer being supported, won't pull updates, isn't valid for state testing. So it's really not a good device anymore. We'll look to, there's organizations like Firefly and others that'll buy some of these used devices, so we'll try to get, a few dollars back on each device for that. But we might also just throw some in the closet for a year, just in case if all of a sudden this happens again and we need to roll out, unexpectedly 50 devices to a kindergarten, kindergarten for second grade or something like that. So we might hang on to these another year, even though they're end of life, if they're not going to be utilized for state testing. So we'll play into that one by year and see how things go. But it is in the budget, again, like Gwen had stated. We try to write your budget so you're on a 5 to 6 year rotation so that it spreads the cost evenly. We're on year 3, I think, of being with you guys, so we're trying to catch up because it was way behind, and we're starting to get to that level spot to where it's always about the same budget, so it's pretty close to what it was last year.
Joe, with those end-of-life machines, once those come back in, would it be possible for those to be possibly rented out or checked out for the summer for students that want to still have a device?
Sure, yeah, as long as we get a couple weeks with them to make sure they're not damaged and they're charging and stuff like that, I don't see an issue with that. They're not going to be doing testing or anything off of them, so I wouldn't see that as an issue.
Okay, Mimi?
Yeah, so is it up to us? Have we decided one way or the other? Because I definitely see benefits to letting the kids have them over the summer. I'm not saying everybody needs to, but if somebody wants to, for instance, what if the summer reading program had some online aspect to it? The kids could then use those Chromebooks. So are we making that decision now, whether or not to let the kids keep them in the summer?
Well, we need to bring them back in to do the inventory and check them out, but that, to check them over and to see what needs to be replaced, what's working, because some of the 140 that are slated to be end of life, there might be more than that that are not slated to be end of life, but they have been damaged to the point where they cannot be fixed. So that's why we need to do that inventory. But that's the question as far as, do we want to allow, once they're in and inventoried and checked over after 2 weeks, do we want to allow kids to check them out this summer again? And what would be the inventory again at the back to school? Because we need to make sure that every student has a Chromebook at the start of the school year. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if we do what you just said.
Do we do something with the Chromebooks every year? I mean, do we like, for instance, I mean, my kindergartner, I think those are new, right? They're like touchscreen ones we just got, and I don't think there's any issue with it. And in order, would somebody touch that and physically touch it and look at it and make sure it's good, and they go through every machine?
They go through, yes.
Yeah, we go through every single machine, because there's a lot of issues that don't get reported to us, especially on a take-home, because nobody wants to get charged for anything. So there's a ton of issues that don't get reported to us, so we physically go through every single machine, check the keyboards, the screens, turn them on, because you can't even see a crack in the screen until it's turned on. So we do all that stuff with each and every machine.
Hey Mimi, can you hear me?
Louder.
Mimi. So I think, what Joe was just saying, and Corinne was saying, if we have an extra 100 Chromebooks that we may be able to check out if they come back in, that aren't gonna be used next year anyway, I would say we use those, like you were saying, Mimi, for the summer, and then just make sure they come back in 2 weeks prior to school starting. And then they're back in our system, and not, a kid doesn't have it for next school year. Does that make sense?
Mimi, could you hear Tom?
Kind of.
Okay.
I
What-
think he said use the extra ones for kids to use over the summer. I didn't catch
Yeah.
the end of it, but.
Once they all come in and we inventory, if somebody wants to check one out, what we'll do is start with the checkout with the ones that are going to be retired. And then if we have more students that wanna check one out than the numbers that are going to be retired, then we go into the other reserves. But then, as Tom said, 2 weeks before school starts, then we collect everything that's been checked out over the summer so that, we can start the school year. Does that
sound good to everybody? Does that seem good? Everybody happy with that? Mimi,
Because
you
that
good?
way if a student wants a computer, they can have the computer. We just need to do the inventory first.
Yeah.
And then we need to do the inventory again before school starts.
That works.
Yeah, as long as we have a couple weeks with it, we're good with it. Even if it's twice during the summer, we're good with
Yep.
it.
Okay.
That will allow us to do what we need to do.
Okay.
Okay.
And so then they would all come in by like August 20th, they'd have to come back in again. That gives the dependable team another 2 weeks, 2.5, 3 weeks to actually clean them up before we start the school year.
Do we need to vote on that on next week?
Mimi?
One last question, just when we're looking and analyzing, just make sure it's a high level summary for the parents so they understand. I mean, there's definitely pros, there's cons too on life, like if my kids need to be careful with them, right?
Yep.
It's more of a chance to break it, but if there's no other device in the house, I can see that being beneficial. How does it tie in with the summer school is something to think about as well. I don't know if it does or not, but just kind of think about what the kids are doing and how these Chromebooks could be helpful and laid out.
The other thing we need to be aware of is Sanitation. They were incredibly generous to allow for the free internet, but the free internet ends June 4th. So if the Chromebook is going to a house that won't have internet anymore, it's not going to be doing the child a service either, because Sanitation is not going to continue the free internet over the summer.
That needs to be brought up in something information we send out.
Yeah. Oh,
Okay, so the bell has rung. Josh, you have a question?
I was just wondering if we had numbers on how many people took up with Sanitation on the internet.
from what I have been able to gather from them, by doing the math, it was about 50 students benefited from the free internet.
Wow. That's huge.
We couldn't have done what we did without having a Centec step up. So we're all very appreciative.
That's huge.
And Craig, we could talk to more about this offline, but if they have cellular access, it seems like some of that CARES Act money is gonna be used for that. And we could work with Verizon that allows you to disable things for 3 months at a time and things like that, so we end up getting some of those MiFi packs that we can get the CARES Act to cover. We can control them for the student devices as well, if we need to do this again.
Cool.
Yep. And that's also something that we need to be looking at if we have to come up with a contingency plan for fall, because a Centec, they are a business, so they can't keep giving their service for free. So we'll have to look at that as a possibility to address these same 50 students if needed in the fall.
Okay.
But we
So let's
had
wrap
the
up.
timer, so we need to wrap up. We didn't get to the programs or the apps that we want to look at and things that we're using this year that right now are free that we might want to pay for next year, because once again, they will have a cost next year. We didn't get to marketing, and we didn't get to community and college partnerships at all. So, when the next board meeting is the 21st, there is no meeting on May 28th, and then we've got a meeting on June 4th. Do you feel that we need to have another strategic planning session May 28th, or can it go to June 11th?
So you go to June 11th just because graduation, a lot of stuff going on. That's just my
Yep.
thoughts.
What's the feeling, Gene?
I think, by June 11th, we'll get, the farther we put it out, the more we'll know, because I mean, right now, so much is uncertainty that, it's hard to say if we do things now and then, well, we don't need all this, because it's gonna change in the fall. Because I mean, we never know what that fall is gonna be.
Well, yeah, and I think if we go to June 11th, if everybody can hear me, we got a lot going on between now and graduation. That'll be right after graduation, and the dust will be settled. So that would be my recommendation. I don't know, Ron, what are your thoughts? No thoughts.
Talking to me,
Yeah.
well, I would be inclined to go with the 28th. I guess I would like to be as informed about as much as we have going on. I'd like to have a kind of good understanding of where we're at as soon as possible, rather than
This is
wait. Because, like you say, by then it might change, but we have to know where we're at first before we think about the changes.
We're not discussing.
Okay, so maybe the best way to do it, you've got your little, reaction button at the bottom. Can I get thumbs up for May 28th? This is a thumbs up for May 28th. Okay, so we have 3 for May 28th, okay?
Mine's actually a question.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, so you, just a step back, you mentioned strategic planning, but
Yeah.
we're not really doing strategic planning, because we didn't get to any of it.
No,
We're really just planning. So, are we talking about planning, or are we talking about strategic planning?
That's why I was trying to
Because
say.
we have so many things to be concerned about that we should be meeting and talking about them, and strategic planning is probably wanna know which one I'm voting on.
Right, I would say, Corinne, we talk about, if we're gonna do it on the 28th, that would be more of what we just digested. And then the 11th would be strategic planning, but we can make the decision on the 28th. Make sense? So Mimi, what we're looking at doing is, if we're gonna, you're right, we're talking two different things here. We're talking strategic planning, which could be pushed out, and we're talking the COVID next fall questions and concerns. So we can have the COVID questions and concerns on the 28th meeting, and then get back into the strategic plan. I can't say that twice.
Strategic.
Yeah, thank you. On the, 11th?
Yeah.
On the 11th. Does that make sense? That way everybody can be updated on what's going on, even though we have a meeting prior to that. And we can go over end of year, what we know by then. So just let's plan both dates, lock them in now, and we're good.
That's a lot of meetings for people. Are we going to be, because we've got,
Well, we got like going on.
okay?
What do you guys think on that? Everybody good with the 28th, going over more of this fall plan and the COVID stuff? And then the 11th, start into strategic plan. Want to get thumbs up or whatever?
Okay,
Nobody's answering.
with that one, so it's, what we're talking about is May 28th, COVID end of year potential plan. That would be the next 4 Thursdays. I am well aware, Todd. So May 28th would be COVID, and then June 11th would be actually the marketing and community and college partnerships strategic planning. Do I have anybody saying, yeah, that's good? Thumbs up for that. We've got 2.
Gene's trying. 3. Michaeline, what are your thoughts? Josh, you have a question?
Okay, so I've got 3 there. Can I have another? How many of you think that we should push the strategic plan maybe into July? Is there anyone that thinks we should wait for the strategic plan until July or not?
What's
We're
the
trying to
question?
space it out.
What did Gene, Josh?
Josh, what did you say?
I would assume anything that needs to be enacted on would be in a regular meeting then.
Right.
On our strategic, as far as like marketing and community college, I mean, right? We're not missing anything. We're just going over it.
Well, I could, another option would be to just put, marketing as part of our June 4th meeting, and we could have community and college partnerships as part of our, July meeting, and just have it like a committee meeting as part of the board. We could do that as well.
Ron's like thumbs up.
Thumbs up on, how many would like those, the strategic parts to be part of the board meetings? And then we just, invite, the principals and Gwen up to the board table to talk about it on a regular board meeting night.
Anybody?
Thumbs up on that.
2.
1, 2.
Yeah, Michaeline and Mimi, Josh don't want to say anything.
So what? Yeah, a decision needs to be made. We need to reach, so what are some, if you're not liking the options that are given to you, what option would you prefer?
Michaeline, what are your thoughts?
I'm good with whatever the board decides. The only question I have is when did I miss, when are we discussing the last part of technology utilization, apps or programs?
That's what we're deciding, but that's part of that, we're calling it the COVID conversation. Because that's part of our planning for, if we do have to go out, what do we have to buy?
Mimi, what are your thoughts?
I have a child throwing a fit in the background.
Oh,
So I'm slightly distracted, but I'm open to, as long as we keep track, I mean, I think we definitely need
Let's
to be
do what
meeting
you say.
to have the discussion about school for this fall, and then we can't put off the strategic planning, so we need to meet. So whatever the group wants to do, I'm fine with.
okay. Then we make the decision, it's gonna be the 28th, we go over the COVID all the way down through technology again, regurgitate that.
Okay.
And then the marketing is on the next meeting, the 4th, and then the community is on the July meeting.
Okay. None of you probably heard Tom. What we're going to be doing is May 28th, we are going to have another, and it's not really a strategic planning session, it's just a planning session for keeping everybody up to date with what's going on with COVID, what we're allowed to do, the notifications that have gone out. By that point, we'll have to have had notifications going out about both summer school, about hurricane watch, and so it will be updates then as far as how are we going to do this. We'll be looking at different things for the dissemination of computers, and then we'll be talking about apps or programs, the things that really have worked well. And with Angela, there might be some things that her teachers have found this year that worked well that might be free apps right now. And there might be something that's paid in the fall, so we need to look at what her teachers need as well, to add to their repertoire. So that would be on the 28th. And then we'll put in marketing in a board meeting in June, when we don't have another committee meeting, and then we'll put community and college partnerships in July, in the one meeting in July. And we went over an hour, I'm sorry, but
Everybody good?
everybody good with that?
Okay, Mike Lee's good.
Okay,
As long as Mike's good and Mimi's good, we're all good.
okay. Hey,
Smile, Mimi.